Hello, and welcome to a very exciting day. That is Legion Major Update Patch Day. So, EVE Online just dropped a pretty huge, mostly PvP focused balance update for the mid expansion update. So, there's going to be a lot of changes to a lot of ships, some areas of space changes, some module changes, things that are kind of like in the world undocked kind of changes. Less so of like there's going to be less marketeering, less industry focus on this patch. But there's a whole lot. We're going to go through all the patch notes, each line by line, give you the context that my big Eve knowledge brain knows all about, so that like if you're a newer player or maybe you're just less understanding about all the different areas of EVE Online, then I'm here to give you context, because it can be a little bit difficult if you like read a line and it doesn't really tell you exactly what that means or how that's going to affect things. I should hopefully be able to expand upon that for you. And yeah, so I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in to the patch notes. And here we are. So first and foremost, we got reducing the number of drones that you can assign to a target from 50 down to 20. So if you've ever heard of like drone balling, this is the concept of like if you have a bunch of drone ships like Myrmidons with Sentry drones, and if you're a multi-boxer, you can assign all of those drones to a single ship, a single character, and then you could basically use that single character to like target painter or attack a specific target, and then everything is going to go after that specific target. So it was a little bit of a problem when it was 50, because that was just a little bit of overkill. It was allowing really large multi-box setups to be a little bit crazy. But they've reduced it down to 20 because there is still a lot of cool, useful scenarios and situations that they want to allow drone assisting to be helpful in there. So they have listed things like if you're a logistics pilot, you can put your horde drones, your little combat drones on whatever attacky pilot, and then you can get on the kill mails, right? That's how Logic gets on kill mails right now. Or you could assign, like if you're a battleship, you could put your drones, assign them to a little frigate who can target things a lot quicker, so and be a lot closer to the enemy target as well. So there are a lot of good, useful, normal situations to use your drones on, and they decided that 20, which is also known as like 4 additional characters if you have 5 drones each, to be an appropriate amount. And so we'll see if that isn't actually an appropriate amount. Maybe I don't imagine they'll reduce it more. 20 actually seems kind of limiting, but 50 was just causing a little bit too much of a problem. So I am actually quite happy about this change. I think it is good for the health of the game. They also, Sentry drones have been definitely a bit of a problem here. And so they are increasing their Sentry drones signature radius from 100 meters to 300 meters. This is about the size of a battle cruiser. So if you were able to hit a battle cruiser, then you should be able to hit a bunch of Sentry drones. And so you're going to be able to hit them with like missiles, Vortron projectors, and bombs and things like that. And so that you can actually blow them up without them being too oppressive. So if you were doing a lot of Sentry drone stuff in the game, life is going to be a little bit, and by a little bit I mean it might obliterate your whole gameplay during this patch update, so you might have to figure out something new. All right, next is armor, and there's a good amount of armor changes, but we're just going to go line by line, and we're going to say armor rigs. They changed the drawback from the armor rigs to be agility instead of max velocity. So the reason they did this is because kiting is king, speed is king, range control is king in EVE Online. And if you are an armor ship, you were a fucking chunk of brick just sitting in space, and all the other ships got to dance around you and do whatever the fuck they wanted. If you were a blaster ship, they got to go away from you, and they just the shield ships always got to dictate the range, because if you put on armor rigs or anything, or plates or anything, you'd be slower, right? And slower is not good. So they changed it to be agility instead of max velocity. Agility is how fast you turn and how fast you align. So it is still definitely like a drawback if you're like in like some high maneuverability, tiny little frigate, tiny little orbit, trying to get under people's guns. So you're still going to be like easier to hit in that way, but you are going to, the trade-off is now you're going to be able to dictate range control, which is arguably a lot more important, a lot more better now. So good buff to the armor ships. You're going to be seeing more of them in like nano gangs or just general PvP and whatnot. They've added a new skill. I really hate how CCP has gone the way of loving to add fucking skills into this game. Luckily, it's only one skill this patch, whereas other patches they've done like, I don't know, 10 skills at the same fucking time. Did they need to add this instead of just upgrading the previous skill? No, definitely not. I don't like the addition of the skill, but I do like what the skill is doing. So basically there is the skill of armor layering, which reduces the mass penalty of armor plates by 5. And then now there's the advanced one, which is going to reduce them by 2% per level. And so you can stack them. So like my suggestion would just be, say, 7% per level on the regular armor layering. But CCP loves to add skills. So we got another fucking skill. Whoopee. All right. And you can just buy it as a character book and your NPCs, and not a problem. Let's see. Are we going to read this? Yeah, let's just read this verbatim. We've heard concerns that shield setups are dominating and armor doesn't feel great for skirmishing now. To help address this, we're introducing a new advanced skill to shave off a bit more mass from armor plates and changing the drawback on most armor rigs to be a penalty to agility instead of max velocity. It's basically just all what I said. This still will keep the original design, intent, and trade-off that exists with armor/shield rigs, in that they reduce some of your ability to mitigate damage in exchange for more tank. Losing turning speed and handling means you won't be able to orbit as tightly or get as high angular velocity as before, but now you won't be also giving up range control anymore, which should make them feel better on the field. We hope that this will make armor more viable at smaller scales and hope promote more ships that have fallen out of favor, such as the advanced hacks. ESS Sight increased the range that players are unable to cloak in the main bank room from 150 kilometers to 500 kilometers. This is a huge quality of life patch note with a small caveat. Because of some other changes in the SS, I'll go ahead and spoil it. You can't put Marauders in the SS. And so like the problem was that there would be like a cloaked paladin 150 kilometers off grid. And so you would go into the SS thinking it was safe, and then you would just get obliterated by it. I guess so. Marauders are going away, so that definitely is going to mitigate the problem anyways. But I guess this is a good change, because you could also just have like a battleship sniper, some like rail ship or whatever, doing the same thing, just to a little bit of a lesser degree. And it's just really annoying when you go into an ESS and you're like, you scout it out and you're like, okay, is anyone here? Then you go in, and then, oh, I guess there's just a fucking battleship that's gonna snipe me and ruin my day. So that's a little bit annoying. And there's like there was no counterplay to it, whereas like if you have a recon ship, you can scan with combat probes and figure out that a recon ship is in there. If a ship is cloaked, it's just gone. There's no way to actually figure out that it's there. So definitely a good change there. And then the next one is that cutting down the Marauders. This is a weird way to put the attached notes. I figured the next one was going to be Marauders can't go into the ESSs, but instead it's Marauders. They removed the 70% micro jump drive reactivation cooldown roll bonus from all Marauders, which is going to make them a whole lot less mobile. So what you would kind of used to do is you would position yourself somewhere, Bastion up, do a bunch of damage, and then as soon as you were starting to get into a little bit of a risky situation, you would unbastion, micro jump drive away, Bastion up again, rinse and repeat, have a good fun time there. And they've basically not like totally nixed it, because you can still have a micro jump drive on your ship. It's just it's going to be a lot longer time, so you're not going to be able to do it nearly as much, and it's probably not worth the module slot at this point. So I don't anticipate you'll see a lot of micro jump drives on Marauders again, or now. For the Vargers specifically, they took the 7.5% fall off bonus and reduced it to 5%. So again, the Vargar is really just fucking powerful. Vargar's online. It has been so powerful for an incredibly long time. They've continually nerfed it. It's never been enough. Will this one be the final nail in the coffin to put the Vargar in its place? Maybe. We'll see. Vargars are still going to be definitely really good. They have so much range, so much tracking, so much damage selection ability. They can go armor or shield. Vargars are just so versatile. They can fit a lot of different niche cases. And so they're really good. But now they're a little bit less good. So I guess that's good. And then lastly, here we go. Marauders are now unable to access the main bank room of the ESS. This is huge. ESSs were completely dominated by Vargars, mainly jumping in and blowing up anything that dared to try and steal the money of the nullsec alliances. You basically always had to bring in anti-Vargar or anti-Marauder ships into your ESS comp, assuming you weren't like solo stealing, because you were pretty much guaranteed to have to fight a Marauder if you were going to go ESSing in any sizable fleet. Onto the Bastion module, which again, only Marauders can equip. So this is a Marauder change. The armor repair and shield boost amount reduced from 100% to 60% while active. Yeah, that's a nerf, but let me read the next line. Added a new bonus, 20% reduction in cycle time and capacitor cost for armor repairs and shield boosters while active. So basically what's happening here is that there was a lot of shield and ancillary shield booster use that uses cap charges going around, and it was incredibly beefy, incredibly powerful, a little bit oppressive, one might say. And so this change is mostly targeted at that, where they are making it so if you do want to use shield boosters, you're going to go through charges a lot quicker, and so you're going to have to reload more, and that reload time is going to be a lot more dangerous. But as far as if you're just using your regular old shield boosters, it's going to be not a problem. It's going to be basically the same. The other thing that this does is for armor Marauders is that you could pretty easily get into a situation where you were repping way up incredibly high percent of your armor buffer, because Marauders are actually like paperweights, that they're very thin. They don't have a lot of tank. The way that they live is through their repping. They don't have a lot of buffer. So when you got in an armor one, you got into a situation where your armor rep, when it ticked, it did like a haul of your fucking buffer, and it kind of made it so that armor Marauders were less good, more easily to be kind of alpha down, harder to, like if you were dual repping them, you kind of have to like cycle better, you'd have to manage your cap more, and it was just not a great experience. So by making this change, it basically means that they are going to be repping more often for less amounts, which will really smooth that alpha ability down and kind of make it a little bit easier to manage. One other thing is that the change is going to make it so that heating your reppers is going to use up your heat more quickly. So they're going to be a little bit less prolonged survivable on heat. All right, moving on to T3Ds, the tactical destroyers. They can now enter the ESS. So the ESS meta is changing up a lot with the Marauders going away and the T3Ds coming in. Things like the Hecate, our Jackdaw, are incredibly fast. The Jackdaw can project the entire ESS room. So if you bring in I'm kind of scared of like if someone brings in a mass of T3D or of Jackdaws, and then they can just easily project onto whatever ships you have in there. And because they're using light missiles, they're going to apply incredibly well. So hopefully we don't see just nullsec blobs of or of Jackdaws rapid responding to ESSs. I'm a little bit worried here, but we'll see what happens. And then maybe kind of the meta shifts to where if you're bringing an ESS comp, you bring something that can counter that, right? So we'll see how it all plays out. Other than that, like if you're going to solo an ESS, if you bring like a Hecate, you could go in, get in. You can go to the ESS incredibly fast. They warp very fast. They go to lots of different systems quickly. And then once you get the loot, you can get out of the site very quickly with like an overpropped Hecate or something. So if you're being a little bit of a frisky dingo, there is more new opportunities in the T3Ds for doing that. Or you could use a Svipul. Svipul's getting some buffs, which we'll talk about here real shortly. Which we'll talk about right now. Well, Confessor first. So Confessor and Svipul are getting buffs because they are the less good T3Ds. And Confessor is getting a new defense mode bonus, 33% bonus to remote armor repair amount and reduction in its activation costs. So think spider tank Confessors. This is really cool because like right now, Confessors are mainly kind of like used for like wolf packs, which is like doing wormhole content in a group of like Confessors, or you could do like C3 content. That's like their main use case, but like now you could probably like do some cool like dual abyssal spider tanking Confessors, and just this opens them up to being a little bit more like Logi ships, right? And I think that's really cool because now is this the first Logi destroyer? Sorta, right? Like that's it's just gonna be really cool to see how this all plays out. I really like this bonus. I think it's unique and cool. And it also kind of fits the idea of like T3Cs can be Logi ships as well. So why can't T3Ds? But now they can, at least the Confessor and Svipul, as we'll see in a sec. Next is damage per level of TAC Destroyer increased from 5 to 7.5. They were less damaging than like a Kate or a Jackdaw, so we're just making it a little bit more damaging. And then max velocity increased from 230 to 250, just a little bit slower. They are an Mars ship, so making them just a little bit better. Svipul gets basically the same bonuses, except for this is going to be for shield bonuses. So no armor Svipuls, sadly. And then the damage is going from 5 to 7.5 as well. And then their max velocity is also increasing from 220 to 240. So this is another 20 meters a second increase. Svipul is honestly really struggling compared to all of the T3Ds. I wish they got a little bit more buff here, but maybe being able to have a repping Svipul fly around will be worth everything, right? And then yeah, just they do a little bit more damage. Hopefully that helps them out. We got to find some good use cases for Svipuls. Right now they're kind of just used in like gate camp setups sometimes, but maybe with this change, maybe some cool stuff will come out from them. And then, all right, Ferox Navy Issue. This thing has been oppressive in nullsec PvP. It is / was the new Munin. So it projects a lot, it reps a lot, and so it was just being a big old problem. They have now reduced the damage they do from 10% to 7.5%. They have less tracking from 7.5 to 5%. They reduce the power grid. The CPU has been reduced, and they reduce the shield booster power. Okay. So this is a buff, even though it says, let me just read it. Reduction in shield booster power and CPU requirements per level bonus improved from 7.5 to 10%. So they were seeing a lot of use in large fleets for nullsec, and not a lot of use as solo ships where they would be utilizing their solo repping ability, right? So this is making them less powerful but more tanky for a solo player. And so maybe you could maybe get rid of like your damage control and put an extra damage module on your low slots, or something like that. So their little blurb is that we're making some adjustments specifically to the Ferox Navy issue to address its dominance in the fleet meta, specifically reducing the damage, tracking, reducing power grid and CPU that it has, sending it back to the same values that regular Tech 1 Ferox has. This should still mean it's viable to make it harder to fit a 5 to 6 slot and a DLA with railguns without fitting modules. At the same time, we are improving the shield booster fitting bonus that it has, which should compensate active tanking fits with a fitting reduction to make it loss in the base power grid and CPU. Additionally, we know that there are concerns about the dominance of other railgun ships that may just simply reduce the FNI or replace the FNI as a top railgun meta ship, with those being the Vulture, Ferox, Naga, and Roke. So we're going to make some adjustments to rails overall. So all medium and large railguns, because railguns have been really fucking good, have their tracking reduced by 10% and their optimal and fall off reduced by 10%. So they are just they are harder to track things, and they cannot shoot as far, so they should be less powerful overall. And that's probably definitely a good thing. I do like this change. It's going to hopefully mean that we're going to see some more maybe arties, maybe some more. Well, I'm not a huge fan of arties because I don't like alpha gameplay. I don't like nullsec fleet fights gameplay, but that's just me. Maybe you like it. But you should be able to see some more arties and beams. Moving on, we got the Naglfar. So the Naglfar is changing its slot layout. So you get an extra mid slot and you reduce your low slot. And then the same thing for the Nag Fleet issue. This is improving the shield tank effectiveness of the Naglfar line by improving the number of mid slots they have available at the cost of a low slot. This should mean that the Naglfar can take advantage of the shield booster bonus a bit more effectively in HA setups, which is anti subcap weapons, and open the door for stronger shield-based anti-capital turret dreadnoughts. While we do think they are trading some of the unique versatility of the Naglfar hull here, the dreadnought meta has been heavily dominated by revelations for the last half decade, and the T1 Phoenix that the T1 Naglfar now shares a slot layout with are missile-based, so we feel comfortable making this change. So, I always felt like the Nag was pretty good, but again, I'm not a capital player, so that makes sense. The Sin. So the Sin had a logistics drone bonus, which is fucking useless. And so they were like, why have this when it bad? So they removed it. If you were someone that is affected by this, if you were using your Sin to do logi stuff, shout out in the comments below. But I don't think anyone's going to comment about that. They added a 10% bonus to the warp scram range per level, though, however. So again, like Galente ships are kind of known for their superior scrambling and tackling abilities. So they're getting a 10% warp scram range per level. This is going to help grab targets just a little bit easier. Sins are, well, when Sins are cloaked, they're actually quite fast, but when they're not cloaked, they're quite slow. So it's just going to help people grab people a little bit better and keep them locked down. And on top of that, they're adding +1 warp scramble strength per level. So if you're looking to tackle very large ships, some capitals here, then you might want to bring your Sin along for your Black Ops tackle fleet, right? So like Hicks kind of were the main thing to tackle capitals, but Hicks can't use Black Ops jumpses. So I think this is a really cool upgrade. I think it's gonna make some really cool gameplay of like some whale hunting of people that do utilize this. And then alternatively, maybe there sees some use of like trying to capture like a DST, which has a lot of warp core strength with like ASIN. I don't know, probably not, but that's like the other ship that's going to be having a lot of warp core strength. Or like a Venture, right? Doubt, but who knows. And to note, these bonuses only apply to warp scramblers and not warp disruptors. So if it was warp disruptors, that would be a 50% increase to warp disruptor range, which would probably be a little bit oppressive. And you'd probably see a whole lot of Sins and a whole lot of weird setups. So probably good that it's just scramblers and doesn't get range control too out of whack. They're saying that the Sin is the least used Black Ops, and the logistics drone transfer amount is fairly weak. Replacing this with a 10% bonus to the range of warp scramblers and the 1% to the warp scramblers. This bonus should be a lot more desirable and makes sense for the role of Black Ops and for the role of Galente. We hope this bonus will improve the Sin's utility in drops by making it more powerful at holding targets and give it a niche in super hunting with the extra point strength. Yeah, I think that's real cool. Moving on to the Apocalypse. They are removing the 7.5 large energy turret tracking per level. They are changing the optimal range bonus improved from 7.5 to 10% per level. And they are adding a 5% large energy turret damage per level and adding a 10% reduction in large energy turret capacitor cost per level. So basically, they are making it a little bit harder to track, but they are increasing the damage on the APOC. And then I think it's the exact same thing with the APOC Navy issue. Yeah, except for a little bit more damage because it's the Navy version. And so like this is kind of making it more of its own identity of a ship. So probably their little blurb. Honestly, not to ruin my own video, but they've gotten a whole lot better at explaining these patch notes with all of these blurbs, and I gotta give props to ZCP. Will this be the last patch note video I make? Probably not, but so what they have to say is that reworking the Apocalypse, there's a lot of competition for large energy turret ships with the APOC Navy Issue, and Abaddon, Nightmare, Balgorn, Harbinger Navy Issue, and Oracle all fighting for the same space. Currently, the Apocalypse feels weak due to the lack of a damage bonus, while the tracking bonus doesn't feel particularly strong because a lot of other laser ships are better in applying damage in practice, such as the Balgorn, Nightmare, Armageddon Navy Issue, and Oracle's superior mobility, allowing it to get better tracking through managing traversal. So yeah, the APOC was kind of just like a slow ship that didn't have as much application or speed, and so it's like, why would you use it? But now it can be the fucking big dick damage ship. The unique selling point of the APOC Slux Hill is the optimal range bonus. However, the damage is still underwhelming. The aim here is to move the Apocalypse move towards a sniper attack role, focusing it more on a range damage. So we are removing the tracking bonus of the Apocalypse while giving it more damage, giving it a cap reduction bonus for lasers, so it doesn't hurt as much running a micro warp drive while shooting, and then improving the optimal range bonus slightly. We feel like this should make the Apocalypse stand out more in the lineup of Amarr battleships. And also, this goes hand in hand with the Ferox Navy issue rails getting nerfed. So you're gonna see some sniper battleships. Maybe this becomes the new fucking nullsec fleet meta. I could definitely see it. I could definitely see it. But we'll let the null blocks decide there. Moving on to the Maelstrom, one of my favorite ships, actually. I love like the cheapness of a Maelstrom. It's just a T1 battleship, and the fucking like big dig damage. I think it looks really cool. It does a whole lot of damage. It's got auto cannons instead of like hybrid turret capacitor stuff. And so what they're changing here is that the high slots are being reduced from 8 to 7, turrets being reduced from 8 to 6. So you're getting one. So basically you're getting a utility high slot, and you are getting 2 less turrets, and you are increasing a mid slot, and you are removing the rate of fire bonus and adding a 10% bonus to large projectile damage, and power grid is reduced from 2100 or 21,000 to 18,000. So you are shooting a lot stronger, but you are shooting less often, and you are shooting with less turrets. So that should basically be about the same damage, maybe. And then you are also getting a mid slot, so it is going to have even more utility. It already had 6, and so you could do, at least I like to do a lot of like Ansil shield boosting with this guy. But now you're going to be able to put an additional. It already had a good amount of tank, but you could probably put on like a web or a grappler or something of that nature to kind of like keep them where you want them to be. Reworking the Maelstrom to be a shield mirror of the Hyperion. This should help make it much more viable as a small gang brawler and PvE platform with the extra utility high and the extra mid slot, while also making it more attractive in fleets by being a bit easier to fit with a pure artillery fit and increasing the alpha capability slightly at the cost of some DPS. We hope this will make it stand out a bit more from other Mimitar projectile ships like the Tempest Fleet issue by leaning it more towards alpha strike damage and less towards rate of fire in fleets as an alternative option, making it more viable as a counterpart to the Roke. So again, they're thinking that you're going to use the Maelstrom more for an arty fit. And so you're going to have 2 new very powerful for T1 battleship sniper options. So be on the lookout for these guys. And actually, I'm curious what this is going to do for the Tornado. Because the Tornado was kind of like the heavy artillery T1 option for sniping. And now is it going to be all Maelstroms? Could be cool. I love the Maelstrom, so I am excited for these buffs. I'll probably stick to skirmishing with it. Small gang brawler, baby. Wormhole brawler. Let's go. But definitely all around good shit. And then the Megathron Navy issue. Tracking bonus is improved from 7.5 to 10% per level, and added a 15% reduction in armor plate mass penalty per level. And the maximum velocity is improved from 130 meters per second to 135 meters per second. So they're giving some extra tracking to the Megathron Navy issue to compensate it for the adjustment to large railguns, which will also mean a direct improvement to it with the blasters fitted. Also adding a small speed boost and an armor plate mass reduction bonus to the Megathron Navy issue to improve it for nano/skirmish armor fleets. This bonus has worked well on other ships like the Nereus, Eris, Catalyst Navy, and Executor Navy issue, so we're excited to see this effect will have on the Nega Navy. Yeah, so it's gonna move around a lot quicker, and it's gonna be able to track a lot better, and that's gonna be a pretty fucking fun ship. And especially combined with the armor changes of its plates are not going to or rigs are not going to slow it down as much. The Megathron Navy issue is going to be flying around doing some cool damage shit. Actually, I really like that. It's a Galente ship, so you don't exactly think super fast, but yeah, that's cool. Yeah, like all three of these battleship changes are kind of really focused in on like longer range battleship combat, and they're all T1 battle, or I guess the Megathron Navy is a Navy ship, but they're still reasonably priced. You're seeing some cool T1 and Navy battleship upgrades, while you're also seeing a reduction in Marauders. So I think that's going to be really helpful and healthy for kind of the battleship meta here. Moving on to the Cenotaph, we have radar sensor strength reduced from 25 to 15. This is a big deal. So the way you counter a Cenotaph is with a jam ship. And maybe not even a jam ship, maybe just running some utility. So like in some random ass ship, not bonused for it, just running some radar jams. If you expect to see some Cenotaphs. Because 15 is not a whole lot. Especially for its size. If you guys don't know how jams work, basically on each of the jam, you'll see the jam strength. And let's just pretend it's like 10. 10 is a very reasonable number to achieve. And so it's going to be 10, your sensor strength, your jam strength, divided by their sensor strength. So 10 out of 15, you're going to have a 2/3 chance to jam the target. And then they're going to be jammed for like 20 seconds. And so they're going to have to either like warp off and warp back on, or try and kill the jam ship. But it's a Cenotaph, so it's not exactly the most agile thing in the world. Especially like, I mean, yeah, it depends on what the jamming ship is. If you have like a random large ship with a random mid slot used up for a jam, then maybe the Cenotaph can get to it, and Cenotaphs are good at killing larger ships. So maybe that's not the play there. But if you have like a Griffin, no shot the Cenotaph is going to be able to hit the Griffin. And so it's going to have to warp off and warp back on, and then it'll probably just get jammed again. So huge counterplay for the Cenotaph now. And it's easily countered with one little Griffin. The armor hit points reduced from 5,000 to 350, 3,500. I can say that. It's getting less buffer. Structure hit points improved from 6,000 to 7,500. Okay, so they're just changing it from more structure and less armor buffer. But it's the total same amount. And honestly, it's going to be a net improvement because your structure resist are going to be a lot higher than your armor resist. Low slots reduced from 3 to 2. Oh god, that's gonna fucking hurt. So if you ever thought about possibly armor tanking the Cenotaph, say goodbye to all of those dreams. This is squarely a shield ship. Then the roll bonus to medium projectile turret and heavy assault missile damage improved from 100 to 125%. Interesting. They're just making it even more damaging. And then max velocity improved from 160 to 170, making it a little bit more mobile and faster. And the agility is improved from 0.6 to 0.55. So interesting. Also, I'm in whole, I'm going to say that this is a pretty big nerf to the Cenotaph. And did it need it? Probably. Because every time that you saw it, it was very oppressive. And it was like, oh, shit, the Cenotaph's on the field. Got to immediately deal with that. And now you can kind of expect it. You can kind of plan for it. You can scout for it even. and be able to a lot easier counter it. And then the Talos is just has the later sensor strength reduced from 16 to 8. Oh god. Okay. So the Talos is pretty fucking easy to jam. They say that we're hearing about complaints of the Cenotaph strength from wormholers, and to a lesser extent, other areas of space were very expensive. High resistance ships are used at very close range at around fixed locations. Yeah, like wormhole brawling. These fits allow the Cenotaph to survive even with a 3-slot tank. In this environment, things like range and speed don't matter as much, and we are making a set of adjustments to the Cenotaph to try and retain its strength in other areas of space where it's not as dominant, while also adding more meaningful counterplay options to the Deathless ships as a whole. Reducing the sensor strength of the Deathless ships to make ECM a very effective counter against them, especially in wormhole environments where their very close missiles are not as much as a disadvantage as they are in other areas of space. This should hopefully allow wormholers to more reliably counter while preserving a lot of their strength in other environments, where it is very difficult to ever get close to their maximum potential paper DPS output. ECM also is not very punishing in situations where you only have a dot on 1 to 2 targets, since as long as you get a lock every 75 seconds, then you can keep up the damage. But ECM is very effective at lowering the total DPS across the whole field, since even a 25% chance to jam results in dropping the number of pods spread in optimal scenarios from 7 to 5. Yeah, so big nerf there. Additionally, we are shifting some hit points from the armor away into structure to make armor tank Cenotaphs more vulnerable, and taking away a low slot, which should make heavy armor Cenotaphs much less viable. To compensate it for the lost low slot and buff it in situations where it isn't using low slots for tank, we're improving the damage roll bonus and also giving it some extra speed and agility to partially compensate the potential loss of modules such as nanofibers and gyros and ballistics controls. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Next up is the Cyclone Fleet issue. So the max velocity is reduced from 190 to 180, nothing too big there. And the signature radius reduction per level bonus is from 5 to 3%. So Cyclone Fleet is just a little bit strong, and so they're just making a little bit weaker. Cyclone Fleet is a bit healthier than the Ferox Navy issue, but still overperforming somewhat, reducing the speed slightly and also reducing the signature radius reduction to be the same as the Hyena to remove some of the mitigation it has. Yeah, it makes total sense. It's just a good fucking ship, and now they're making it slightly less good. Moving on to the Harbinger Navy issue. Power grid increase from 1550 to 1625. Weird. The Harbinger Navy issue is underused, so we're giving it some power grid to open up a few more fits. Combined with the changes to armor rigs and the other dominant battle cruisers being knocked down a bit, we hope this will make a more attractive pick. I don't know if that's going to be enough to make it worthwhile. I personally still think lasers are lacking, so you're not going to see me in a Navy issue, or Harbinger for all of the pronunciation nerds. The Harbinger Navy issue. Yeah, I don't think that really matters. The Navy issue. All right, this fucking thing. Drone capacity increased from 250 to 300. Now additionally gets a 10% bonus to drone tracking per level, just like the Vexor Navy issue does. So, yeah. Will the drone tracking help? Not with like the Sentry drone changes. Yeah, I think this is still in a bad spot. They say the Myrmidon Navy issue is still the least used battle cruiser in the game because like they tried to make it the fucking stupid ass web drone battle cruiser, and they're so fucking niche and useless. And man, I wish that they made this ship cool, but I've been pissed ever since they changed it to be like the weird ass web ship. It's still the least used battlecruiser in the game, giving it a powerful tracking bonus to match the VNI, and then improving the drone capacity on it so that it has more options and is harder to defang, and can afford to include more utility drones like the web drones as a bonus too. Yeah, sure. But yeah, no, making it harder to defang and giving it more tracking is sort of like I wish it was just damage. I wish they just more damage to those drones. But I don't know. I guess the tracking's nice. Means it can shoot smaller targets. Yeah. Yeah, whatever. Tornado. Oh, okay. Tornado changes. Agility is nerfed from 0.475 to 0.54. Max velocity increased from 225 to 250. And fall off bonus per level improved from 5 to 7.5. Okay, so they were like, we still want the tornado to be a fucking long range motherfucker. We've heard frustrations when it comes to dealing with low align time, warp speed rigged artillery fit tornadoes, wind runners. So we're making an adjustment to the tornado, which shouldn't hurt it in this role, but buff it in other roles. We're nerfing the agility enough so that it will be much harder to get an under 4-second align time in the tornado, making this type fit a lot more vulnerable to being caught. To compensate for this nerf, we're buffing the base speed of the tornado and also improving the fall-off bonus per level that it has. The net outcome of this is hopefully that the Windrunner fits are less effective and can be caught more easily, but tornadoes that are staying on the field feel stronger. Yeah, so what they mean by like Windrunner is that like you would warp in a group of tornadoes, basically shoot at a target and then warp off and then rinse and repeat, and they were hard to kill, hard to tack down, and just annoying. So they're trying to make it so that tornadoes can stay on the field longer. They can stay at a larger range to be a little bit more safer. They can range control a little bit better with their max velocity. So it's just kind of incentivizing them to be on the field, be vulnerable, and not be so god dang annoying. Moving on to the Talos. The max velocity here is improved from 220 meters to 235 meters. That's a pretty good bonus. Give the Talos a little bit of love since it's underused outside of structure grinding and ganking. Okay, yeah, sure, why not? Will I really ever care about Talos still? Probably not. But maybe other people like Talos. The Deimos. The structure or the signature radius has been reduced from 150 to 120. Okay. That's kind of interesting. I don't really think the Deimos is like cares that much about its sig radius, because to me it's kind of like a brawly skirmisher, so it's not really sig tanking a whole lot. But CZP says the Deimos had a very large sig radius for a brawling focused armor hack, moving it down to 120 meters, which places it between the Vagabond and Zealot so that it can mitigate more damage. This should help it when brawling and in AHAC rolls. Sure. Why not? The Zealot. 5% rate of fire bonus replaced with a 7.5 bonus to medium energy turret damage. So they're just making a little bit more damage for the Zealot. I think this is pretty cool. Again, I said lasers are poopy butthole, so making them a little bit better, at least on one specific ship. And I think the Zealot is a cool ship. I really like hacks. So this is a very small damage bump from 33% to 37.5% more damage, but will help with the Zealot a lot more with cap stability, since the guns will no longer be consuming as much capacitor per second, and also means the crystals will last longer before they break. Oh, this isn't a damage increase. This is they're removing a rate of fire and improving the damage instead, which is a much bigger buff, because yes, now you shoot less, and capacitor is always a big problem with lasers. So I really like this. I kind of want to go fly some Zealots now. That'll be fun. The Mamba. Oh, thank fuck. So the Mamba kind of sucks in that it is incredibly way too expensive for what it offers. And how are they changing this? They're adding a new roll bonus, 25% bonus to drone max velocity. So your drones go zoom zoom, get to their targets a lot quicker now, which should help, especially in like PvE situations where you're trying to go from target to target and kill a lot of things. Maximum velocity improved from 245 meters a second to 255 meters a second. So giving it a little bit extra sig tanking ability and maneuverability as well definitely helps. Does it help enough Probably not. But you know, it's getting there. It's on the way. And then the Mekubal gets a new roll bonus added. 50% bonus to small projectile fall off. Will this make the Mekubal usable? I think probably. I think if you got the money to splash, I think flying a Mekubal in like Fac War now, or maybe other weird scenarios, maybe small gang stuff. Because yeah, like previously, like if you were a Mekubal, you had to get too close, and then you got obliterated. But giving it a little bit more fall off on your arties is, you know, it's gonna be good. I really like the Mekubal bonus. I think that is going to actually make some changes to what happens with that. The Mamba, I don't think that's going to really be anything to write home about. But CZB says that the Mamba and Mekubal aren't quite at the power level expected from a pirate destroyer and their current price. Very true. They are way too expensive for what they do. So we're buffing them up by giving them an extra roll bonus, which currently all other T1 destroyer and Navy destroyers in the game get. The Mamba is getting more drone speed roll bonus, which the Algos has, and a bit more speed since it's a bit too slow right now, while the Mekubal is getting an additional fall-off bonus, which will stack with its per-level bonus, just like the Kizriel. So that's going to be, it's going to be even more than 50% because it also has the per-level bonus, which is going to multiply and make it so that it can actually like fly pretty far away and do some damage. It's going to be a lot more like a Catalyst Navy issue now, but a lot cooler because the Mekubal looks fucking sick. I'm excited to fly some Mekubals now. Moving on to the Magnate Navy issue. Okay, so moving on to all of the exploration frigates, the combat exploration frigates, whatever you want to call them. It looks like all of them are improving their capacitor and capacitor recharge time. This just makes them more viable to use repping modules, more viable to use their guns in the case that they are a cap gun ship. Setting the Navy scanning frigates base capacitor amounts, capacitor recharge times to the same value as their Navy racial counterparts. This will result in them having much higher base capacitor pools and slightly higher capacitor per second rates. It was difficult to use them in PvP because of how low their capacitor pool was, since they were unchanged from the base exploration frigates, which sucks. So this should improve them. Do I think you should use an Explo frigate for PvP or for any reason still? No. I really hate the Explo frigates. I just really hate them. And so I'm going to continue to do so even with this upgrade, because I don't think it really changes anything. The Skybreaker. Okay, so this is a big change. The Skybreaker and Stormbringer are getting an additional high utility slot. So giving these ships a utility slot allows them a chance to escape their current niches and see more use in other areas of the game. Power grid and CPU values have not been changed, so their new modules must fit within current fitting constraints. I don't really like that. I wish they give them some more power grid and CPU as well. But now you're going to be able to fit things like maybe spider tanking on your Skybreaker ships. Maybe do some abyssal stuff with them. Maybe do some DED hunting with a scanning rig on them now. Maybe have like a NOS or a Newt on them. Give a little bit of power grid to yourself again with the NOS or something. So they have really needed a utility high for ever since their inception. Previously, they only had one high slot, which was for their gun. And so this is a really welcome change. It might even make me actually train into them and fly them as a ship, because I do think they are a cool concept, but they are just so niche, at least previously. I still think they're really quite niche, but a little bit less so now. So that's pretty cool. Moving on to the outpost construction skill. Wait, there's a new skill? Wait, what the fuck? Oh wait, no. Now gives 1% reduction per level in manufacturing time for items that require the skill. So I guess this is just fixing what should have already been there. Yeah. A lot of the other manufacturing skills already have reduction in manufacturing time for each level of the skill that you have. So it's kind of weird that this one didn't have that, but now it does. So that's good. All right, faction warfare, everyone's favorite for AWACSing. So faction warfare did and still does have a huge problem with AWACSing, especially the pirate factions. If you don't know, AWACSing is basically team killing. There is a large group which basically manipulates the systems and regulations in order to make it so that they get to kill you, even though you're on the same team, and so that they get everything and you get nothing, and you can't really do anything about it because you are not also manipulating the system in the same way that they are. So get fucked, nerd, and it's really fucking annoying. And pirate faction warfare has been obliterated, and to a degree, Empire faction warfare has been obliterated because of this stupid ass fucking meta. Is really aggravating. Probably the most aggravating thing in the game right now is the state of the faction warfare and the AWACSing in it. And so they're doing some changes to it to hopefully make it a little bit better. Do I think this change is enough? No, but hopefully it will make a little bit of mitigation to make it a little bit better until they find out ways to get around it again. So they're changing the minimum requirements to join the pirate faction warfare factions, so Angels and Gristas, from -2 to 0.0 to match the 4 Empire militias. So this is what it is now for the Empire militias. There is still AWACSing and team killing in the Empire militias. It is to a lesser degree because it is harder to do so with this rep requirement. But it's not going to completely get rid of the problem. And we need bigger thoughtful changes to come, because faction warfare can be really fun, but a bunch of arseholes are fucking ruining it right now. Insurgency balance. So reduce, if you don't know, Insurgency is what they call the pirate faction warfare like gameplay loop. Reduce the base amount of systems needed to be won from 7 to 5. Increase the ambition modifier cap from +13 to +15. So winning 20 systems is still the maximum difficulty cap. Okay, so they're making it easier for the anti-pirates to win, because the anti-pirates have basically never ever won, and they will never ever get to 7, but hopefully they can get to 5 before the pirates can get to 20. So we'll see. Increase the weighting of the frontline and command op systems so that Insurgency fob, when choosing a system for a new Insurgency, so that it will more likely choose those systems. Oh, interesting. Okay. So now pirate warfare is more likely to happen where regular faction warfare is happening, which also means that you could sort of try and manipulate it if you can get involved in faction warfare, because pirates love manipulating the insurgencies to make it so that safe systems, safe, well-traveled systems on pipelines are no longer safe. But this makes it easier/harder to do so. So I guess that's pretty cool. And then increase the weighting of dominant control when a side owns 66% or more of the war zone, so that the insurgency fob is more likely to choose those systems. Okay, cool. So they did make it more manipulatable, but they also made it so that baseline it should be in a better spot. And then insurgency mining ambush sites. Increase the sig radius of some enemies from 25 to 80 meters, which is the same as the ore safeguard Atrons, so that they are much easier to track for players and the NPCs. And increase the shield hit points of the pirate and Mordu's battleships NPCs by 50% to increase the time it takes to run these sites a bit, and to give more opportunities for players to get caught while running the site. Okay, cool. Makes sense. The pirate tackle frigates had very low signature radius when compared to the orc tackle frigates and were hard to track for both players and NPCs. Additionally, the sites were getting run a bit faster than when you would like them to be, increasing the time slightly by increasing the HP. Okay, sure. Character re-sculpt update. Hooray! Finally, a quality of life for something a number of people have been asking for an incredibly long time. It is now possible to swap between the male and female body modules using a pilot body resculpt certificate available from the NES. So, speaking on a sort of personal note, I don't actually think I'm going to change any of my characters out, but like my first character is male, and maybe now that I'm some amount of trans, right? Shocking, truly. There is definitely like I might want my character, my avatar, to be female now. And now it is finally possible. Hooray! The game is incredibly old. You know, people have been playing their characters for 20 years. Things change. And so this is a long awaited hooray. Finally, we can change our avatar's gender. Or yeah. And then also as a part of the update, every capsuleer receives a free character resculpt token that is bundled with the weekly 15,000 free skill points available in the New Eden store. So they're just giving one to everyone. Hooray, you'll love to see it. This is normally an Omega only benefit, but until 16th of September only, it is available for alphas as well. So everyone get your free 15,000 skill points and your free resculpt token. Even if you don't intend to use it right now, grab it, and maybe one day you too will want to change the gender of your avatar. Who knows what's in your future? Capsuleer safety in HiSec. Autocynthian Lancers are fucking out of here. So this is wonderful. This is basically like a noob trap. Autocynthian Lancers were killing new players, and it was no fun, and it was not telegraphed in appropriate ways. Kind of the same thing as like when the Triglavians were running around killing people in like HiSec systems that new players were just traveling through, trying to have a good time. And so now they're out of here. They're not going to be killing new players, which is great. Forward operating bases that would previously spawn in HiSec are now spawning in low sec and at a higher rate. So gone is the days of HiSec fob gameplay hunting, which is a little bit sad because this is a bit of content that I wanted to explore more, and I think it was cool that you could do fobs in HiSec. They are removing them. The reason they are removing them is because, again, it is a little bit of a noob trap with diamond rats. You don't really know what you're getting into. You don't know that these guys are extra special because they look basically the same as all the other guys. But when you fuck with them, they will obliterate you. So they're making it so that HiSec is safe for new players and low sec is gets a little bit more cooler content, which actually I guess I kind of do like, because I do want there to be more reasons to be in low sec, you know? And it seems like they're spawning at a higher rate, so maybe you can make even more of your gameplay loop to be doing these forward operating bases in low sec. And you could also get into like PvP fights in low sec doing them. And I think that's cool. So yeah, good shit. Even though I do wish they were still sometimes spawning in high sec, so you could like practice in high sec, learn them. But maybe just like get rid of like diamond rats somehow. I don't know. Whatever. They did what they did. It is what it is. They basically just said what I just said. Missions and NPCs. They are significantly increasing the NPC buy order quantities for the following commodities. All the commodities that you think they would be. Yeah. So Basically, this is just like if you are a trader buying up a bunch of these commodities in jita and then going off to sell them for a slight profit, this is going to help you out, as well as if you are like a corporation leader or an alliance leader who does a big buyback program, buys a lot of these items and wants to go sell them, like blue loot, then now you can more appropriately sell them. There's new contribution methods for freelance jobs, and these are pretty fucking cool. Say hello to the return of the actual bounty system. So the first one is Destroy Capsuleer. Project managers can now set up freelance jobs that reward destroying specific capsuleers or organizations. And so previously / currently, there is the damage a capsuleer, which basically is very easy to do yourself and then just lodge yourself up and basically steal the money. Now they have actual destroy capsuleer. There needs to be a destruction of ISK and property in order to get paid out for this. So it's a way to kind of have your bounty system back, right? This is really cool. I'm really excited this is finally in the game. It's been long awaited, and I think it's going to be a definitely well-used career or freelance job project. Like one instance that I can easily see it being used for is that people are going to set up kill absolute order for money. And this way we can just kill a bunch of absolute order douchebags, and someone's going to pay for it through a freelance job who has a bunch of iskies and wants to see a better New Eden. Next, you have Remote Boost Shield. Earn rewards by boosting allies' shields through freelance jobs. And Remote Repair Armor. Okay, so this is just moving the corporation job. You already had these in corporation jobs, and now they're available as freelance jobs. What kind of use case do I see here? Maybe you could set up some sort of freelance job so that when people not in your corporation rep people in your corporation, they get paid for doing so. I don't know. Maybe there'll be some interesting use cases here. We'll see how that all plays out. Moving on to Pochven. The smaller scale sites have had some mechanical tweaks. So they pretty recently changed all of the smaller scale sites. Now they are changing them again to kind of just update them to make them a little bit more better after the big initial change. So all such sites will now appear within the Triglavian Invasion Opportunities page. Oh, thank fuck. So it's going to be easier to find them. NPCs within Edencom's scout fleets will no longer have mixed factions. E.g., Amar NPCs will no longer appear with Caldari. Okay, that's basically just a bug. Battleship NPCs will no longer spawn during the first wave in these sites. Sure, why not? Moved NPC spawn locations to reduce bumping with the hackable container. All right, so I guess the NPCs were being a little bit derpy. Various improvements on how the NPCs with these sites handle idling and swapping targets. Okay. NPCs will now make more consistent use of their micro warp drives. Interesting. And a rogue drone battleship will now always spawn during the second or third waves of an incipient drone swarm site. So I guess maybe you got like jackpot sites where you didn't have to kill one of the fucking battleships, and the battleships are beefy. That is the lion's share of the site is killing that battleship. So now they always spawn, and I guess they weren't always spawning. Adding to the sites to the Triglavian Invasion page has their location visible at any range within the region. This should promote more purposeful movement around the triangle, while also offering a way for hunters to locate potential targets. Separating the Edencom subfactions will mean there are less types of E-War to deal with per instance. This should bring the difficulty of the site more in line with that of the Convocation Watchpost. Lastly, battleship spawning in the initial wave could result in swings in difficulty and time requirements. This was especially true for incipient drone swarms, which could take far longer when multiple battleships spawn. Now a battleship will only spawn during the second or third wave. The battleship spawn is guaranteed in incipient drone swarm sites, both to supply standings gains and to ensure the site runtime is decent length. Cool. Yeah, I really like these new Pochven small scale sites. I want to do a lot of gameplay, like group content with them. And I think they're really cool. I think it is a real great addition to Pochven. And so it's good to see that they're getting a little bit of extra love after they were first introduced, because I definitely know CCP has had a history of introducing something and then leaving it to die forever, especially in Pochven. So it's good to see them actually continuing to look at it. They rebalanced the torpid sleeper highs distribution and rewards, increased the number of sites present within the region to 6 from 3, doubling them. That's great. That means there's going to be more opportunities for more people to do them and more PvP. Decreased the optimal per pilot ISK payout to 27 million from 33 million. Don't know if I love that. I guess because there's now double the amount of sites, there should be less travel time from site to site. So that should make up for the difference in money there. And then decrease the average number of stability telemetry commodities within the hackable container. So I guess it was paying out a little bit too much. Increase the optimal per pilot ISK payout earned within the Convocation Watch Post and Edencom Scout fleets to 18 from 15. Okay, and so they made the Torpid Sleeper Hives a little less great. They made the Edencom Scout fleets and Convocation Watch Post a little better. And they made the Incipient Drone Swarms more smooth. 3 instances of the site proved to be not enough to meet the demands. So the number of sites has been doubled. Rewards have been rebalanced to compensate for greater potential faucet. The Watch Post and Scout fleets continue to be less appealing than the Incipient Drone and Torpid Sleeper Hives due to their negative standing effects. The payout increases aims to award those who are willing to put up with the additional dangers these standing hits cause. Optimal per pilot payouts for observatory flashpoint sites have been increased to 150 million ISK from 120. Micro jump drives can no longer be activated within the lobby area of the observatory, and the observatory failure timer will now only start after the initial guard NPCs are destroyed within the main combat area. So this is kind of like the big boy site of Pochven. The previous change to the site rewards has had an outsized effect on groups running non-Marauder setups. We are adjusting the payout values of the site so it is still valuable for those groups. To compensate for the reward reversion, a micro jump drive block has been added to the lobby of these sites. This is intended to reduce the usefulness of Marauders within that area. So they kind of doubled up on doing this because Marauders are probably never going to use micro jump drives right now. So, it is what it is. In addition, the site must now be fully in progress before the failure timer begins ticking down. This is to prevent players from re-rolling the site spawn without any effort. The NPCs within Vigilant Point sites have had a number of balance changes. The Vigilant Point sites are in Pochven, and they are the 15-man battle cruiser. There was an event that introduced these, the Drifter Crisis event. And so now they are just a part of Pochven. And so they have had a number of balance changes here as well. The NPCs will now utilize micro warp drives to close distances. The NPCs will move more slowly when they're optimal range orbit. The inertia modifiers and mass values have been adjusted to make NPCs more agile. Optimal weapon ranges have been increased and fall-off ranges have been added. Weapon tracking has been improved significantly. Shield and armor resistances have been reduced. Signature radii for frigates, destroyers, and cruisers have been increased. Signature radii for battleships has been decreased. Drifter officers within the Vigilant Point sites must now be destroyed before the next wave spawns to increase the Destroyer Drifter command counter. Vigilant Point sites beacons will now appear within the lobby area instead of the combat area. Vigilant Point sites beacons will now persist after the site is completed. And Vigilant Point acceleration gates will now be accessible without a key after the site is completed. A common solution to the site has been kiting NPCs and largely ignoring them, which goes against the intended gameplay loop. As such, outrunning these NPCs has been much more difficult. NPCs will now be more of a threat, but are also easier to destroy. The change to when Drifter officers must be destroyed aims to increase the challenge when attempting to draw out the Strategos. This also prevents Electo's Blind Fury from being used as a tool to help clear multiple waves. The beacon and acceleration gate behavior has been made consistent with the observatory flashpoint sites. This prevents them from being usable as safe locations following the site's completion. So that sounds pretty good. Sounds like there was a little bit of a meta was figured out for those sites, and it looks like they changed up a lot of things to make shake up the meta to be more healthy instead of exploitable. The Overmind Nursery Groves. These are the Pochven exploration sites, which I previously hate. Maybe now I will hate less, but they have been partially rebalanced. Replace the Triglavian survey databases found when salvaging an Overmind Nursery rest with Trig salvage materials, and reduced the maximum number of sites to 9 from 10. Weird. A beacon will now spawn in the site's lobby area when the site completes. Okay. So it makes them more appropriately flavorful as an actual site. I like where they're actually at right now. There's still not really any reason to explore Pochven because this is the only site to do. But maybe if you really want Trig salvage materials, and maybe actually you just fucking go around in a circle in Trig space, just doing these sites. I'm gonna have to have a stream where I figure out what kind of ISK you can make doing these sites now, getting the Trig salvage. Replacing the red loot with Trig salvage gives a way to acquire these materials without damage to Triglavian standings. The average value for the site increased fairly significantly with this change, resulting in a small tweak to the number of sites available. Also, the number is now divisible by 3, which is very important for Pochven. Like with Vigilant Point sites, the beacon has been added to prevent the site being a safe haven once the site ends. Actually, yeah, I really like that. I'm going to go do some exploration in Pochven and see how it goes. Maybe that's my new gameplay loop. Science and industry. Increased the Metanox daily consumption from 3,600 to 4,800, and decreased mimetic gas volume from 0.1 to 0.01. Oh, wait. What? Why the fuck do squalls exist? We are actively working towards a stronger long-term solution for the Metanox and its impact. These changes are meant to be short-term iterations to nudge the Metanox in the right direction, while we take the time needed to find a better long-term solution. Ah, come on, CCP. You could do better than this. I don't even give a fuck about Metanox moon trills, but that seems like a low effort change. Moving on to Sov and community patch changes. That's what the little handshake means. It is now possible to configure skyhooks while they are activating during the 30-minute window, and it is now possible to configure skyhooks remotely through the My Orbital Skyhooks page. So yeah, this is just a good little quality of life. It used to be a little bit more annoying than it should be to change some settings on the skyhooks, especially when you were setting them up. And now you can set it up and set it up while you set it up, so it's actually set up. Hooray. All right, wormholes. Let me take a drink. There's some big changes to wormholes. Wandering case-based wormhole connections have been added to C4 wormhole systems. Or maybe I just think it's big because I live in a C4 wormhole. But we now have a wandering SO47, which connects to high-sec, an N290, which connects to low-sec, and a K329, which connects to null-sec. Each of these new wormholes will be battleship size. Thank fuck. For a second, I thought they were going to say carrier size or capital size, which I really would not have appreciated. These wormholes will be significantly rarer than those found in C5 and C6 systems. Okay, but living in a C4, I'm gonna find. Well, I guess this is cool. I'm gonna have more case-based connections, which means we can go. Either I can go to like jita, or I'm probably not gonna use the low sec a lot, to be honest with you. Or we can go like hunt null sec systems a little bit easier and more frequently. So I like that. That's good shit. The Z142 and C248 wormholes will now spawn more frequently. Let's look up what those are. So we're looking for Z142. It is the C5 to null sec. And then the C248 is C6 to nullsec. Okay, so a lot more nullsec connections. So nullsecers better be afraid. Scan levels for certain wormholes have been changed. Wandering wormholes, a bunch of them from level 1 to 2. This doesn't fucking matter. Wandering wormholes from level 2 to level 1. Wandering wormholes from level 3 to 2. From 2 to 3. From 3 to 2. And wormholes will now appear within wormhole systems. Wait, what's a J492? J492 wormhole. What? Medium hold a low sec. Huh. Okay. That's a weird one. But I guess there's going to be more low sec holes. The goals for these new-ish C4 wormholes and increased frequency of the Z142 and C248 wormholes is to give residents access to more content opportunities. In addition, these in C4s may occasionally luck into a direct high-sec connection. Yeah, Jita connects, hooray. Scan levels have been tweaked, both consistency and usability. Any wormhole that can appear as both static and wandering will now use different scan levels, so they are more easily distinguishable. Any wormhole that can appear as both static and wandering will now use different scan levels, so they are more easily distinguishable. That's pretty cool. I guess that if you actually pay attention to the levels of your wormholes, honestly, I don't. But maybe some players do. And here is a big change. The information window descriptions from wormholes have been updated. The messages for the wormhole's destination, maximum ship size, lifetime, and mass stability have been simplified. Lifetime and mass stability message now include color for improved readability. A 1 hour remaining lifetime message has been added. A drifter wormhole destination message has been added. A C13 wormhole destination message has been added. So when you go show info, you're now going to, instead of saying like, oh, it goes to a dangerous area of space, or it goes to a deadly, or the wormhole is not yet collapsed, or is unstable, or end of life, they're getting, I guess I kind of feel two ways about this now that I'm saying it out loud. On the one hand, it makes it easier for players to actually understand what the fuck is going on, which is good. But on the other hand, it makes Eve babby. It makes Eve for babbies. I have a skill set. I know I can look at wormholes and I can show their info and I can suss out what all this means. And I don't have to have it fucking baby fed to me. But I don't know, whatever. I do actually really like the 1 hour remaining text message. So now it used to be EOL was 4 hours. So if you saw an EOL hole, it could be anywhere from 4 hours to 5 minutes remaining. And so you would feel really risky about jumping that hole. Whereas now there's a much less risk, because if it's not super EOL, then you're like, okay, at least I can go out for at least an hour. Whereas alternatively, if it is super EOL, you're like, all right, got to go in and out real quick, or shit's going to go wonky. All right, and then the warp in spawn points within C2 cosmic anomaly sites have been adjusted. I don't think that really matters at all. And the targeting prioritization for capital escalation site drifter NPCs is no more varied. All right, sure. The value of loot dropped from an upgraded adventure NPC has increased to 50 million ISK from 35. Okay, not a huge improvement considering the site that you're doing that in is probably going to get you like 500 million isk. Deep flow rift sites will no longer spawn within wormholes. Oh, thank fuck. Oh my god. Oh, this is huge. Oh. So, especially if you're like roaching and you see a new signature pop up, a lot of times when you saw the new signature pop up, it was these stupid ass deep flow rift sites, and so you'd get spooked for no reason. And it was really just annoying, these guys and these new signatures. And so not having them in wormholes is a lot better, because like if you're a wormhole, you're not even fucking running these sites. So yeah, that's great. I'm really glad that they're no longer here. Many of the spawn points found in C2 Cosmic Anomaly sites were extremely far apart. This resulted in a lot of time with the site being dedicated just moving between locations. Yeah, but also the spawn location. Oh, wait. The warp in and spawn points within C2 Cosmic has been oh, this is huge. So I actually recently did a investigation of doing low class wormholes in like C1 and C2. Obviously C3 is great. I figured out that C1 is pretty good, but probably not worth doing because of the amount of risk and isk that you have to put on the line, but it's a fun little adventure. Whereas like C2 was really not cutting it because you warped in and the spawn points for these enemies were so fucking far away that you just had to waste a lot of time getting to actually start to shoot at the enemy. But they changed that. So now they're going to be a lot closer together. And so I'm going to need to go check that out again, see if it's worth doing. But I kind of imagine that it probably will be worth doing, especially for like newer players, alpha players. If you can't quite get into the C3 content stuff, which C3 content is fabulous if you can do it. So if you're a newer player, just getting into like some T1 cruisers, Navy cruisers, things like that, you might want to fuck around with some C2 wormholes, and it'll probably be worth your while a little bit now. The capital escalation drifters often focused logistics ships when present, making it easier for higher value ships to avoid danger. These NPCs are now much more likely to vary the kinds of ships that they target. Cool. The upgraded Avenger NPCs will only appear and remain with a capital escalation site that has been escalated. Increasing the ward earned by defeating these NPCs further encourages the use of capitals for this content, creating more juicy targets out in space. If you think fucking 15 million extra iskies per upgraded Avenger is going to entice capital ships, which cost multi-billions, I think you're a little bit awry there. And then lastly, the deep flow rifts have generally been considered out of place within the wormhole ecosystem, and as such have been removed. Already existing sites will remain, but not respawn once completed. Wonderful. Moving on to the fixes, means we're on the tail end here. Rorquals, faxes, and jump freighters will now be blocked from sites which disallow other capital ships from entering. The Retriever is now shown on the astrology skill as required for at level 3, like the other two mining barges. Fixed a Sancha NPC showing up in Serpentis variation of the Violet Expulsion level 1 mission. Fixed an Angel Sentry Tower being used in the Serpentis rally point instead of Serpentis Sentry Towers. Localization, fixed a typo in the name, fixed a typo, fixed the name of the Mordus, fixed a typo. Pochven. Fixed a very rare issue where a second Galente Dreadnought could appear within observatory flashpoint sites. NPCs within observatory flashpoints and smaller scale sites will now correctly orbit within their E-War effective ranges. And Drifter and Sleeper NPCs with remote repair effects can now repair their allies. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the fucking end of the patch notes. Holy shit, that was a lot. Just under the 1 hour 30-minute mark. Thank you so much for hanging out, watching all the patch, listening to the patch note changes. Hopefully I give you a little bit of extra information and context for all of these patch notes, or even if you were just listening, to the patch notes instead of reading them all yourselves in the car or at work or whatever. Thank you for hanging out. Again, I also Twitch stream Mondays and Wednesdays, starting around 2300 Eve time. So tomorrow I'm going to be streaming, and I'm probably going to be doing some of that Pochven wormhole expo, checking that out, or maybe the C2 wormhole combat sites. If you don't know, I like to focus in a lot on newer player kind of content, alpha content, things like that, small skill points, not a whole lot of iskies. Alternatively, I live in a C4 wormhole on my real accounts, right? I do industry, I do marketeering, I like to make T3Cs, I like to make capital and super capital components. We do a lot of cool fun stuff, a lot of information gathering, a lot of all that good stuff. Check out the Twitch channel. Again, Monday and Wednesday, starting around 2300 Eve time, going for about 4 or 5 hours each day. Other than that, what do I think about all of these patch notes and this patch in general? I think it's cool. I think it's good. I think it's a lot of good balance changes that a lot of them needed to happen. A lot of them are good to have. There's a lot of cool Pochven changes. I really like what they've been doing with Pochven lately. I think it's really shaping up to be a cool area of space. So go check that out. Have some fun in there. Do some PvP. If you don't know, Pochven is really great because capitals are not allowed. That's another reason that I really like wormholes, is that you see a lot less capitals, but Pochven, no capitals are allowed. And yeah, if you're a big old PvPer, nullsecker, fleet guy, I guess you're probably just gonna wait until whoever tells you whatever ship to fly is gonna tell you to fly a different ship. But it'll be probably pretty fun for you to fly a different ship instead of the fucking Ferox Navy issue again and again and again. What else do we got? I'm excited about the Maelstrom. I personally really like the Maelstrom. If you're a Naglfar enjoyer, that's going to change some stuff up. The T3Ds, probably going to be checking out some Abyssal remote repping Confessors, or doing some like Logi small gang destroyer Logi Svipul. I don't know, something like that. It'll be cool. Bringing them into the ESS. Marauders are finally getting some more nerfs, some important nerfs. They're getting kicked out of the ESSs. You're going to see finally less Marauders in this fucking game. Really excited for that. Also the armor changes. Really excited for that. Going to be able to see more armor nano gang instead of just all the shield shit. And then Sentry drones and the drone changes for less massing of them on a single character. It's going to definitely affect a number of players, and a number of players are going to be real salty about it because it's going to have to change a lot of their gameplay. But they'll find something new, as they always do. And hopefully faction warfare pirate stuff gets a little bit better. I actually don't have a whole lot of hope that it will really fix the situation there, but you know, here's hoping. All right, so I guess that's going to be it. Have a great rest of your day. Don't forget, you're special and unique and awesome just the way you are. And I kind of imagine, keep an eye out here, because next week, next Tuesday, the Vanguard big event playtest thing is dropping, and it is almost certainly going to have some interaction with EVE Online. So I kind of expect another pretty big chunky patch note event content stuff happening next week. So get ready for that. And also, just in a general note, from now until the rest of the year, EVE Online is shaping up to have a lot of cool content and events and stuff happening in it. So finally, hopefully the summer slump is over. It's been a little bit rough for me, this one. But I'm really excited to play some EVE Online for the next few months here coming into the winter. And I hope you are too. Signing off. See you later. Ciao, ciao for now. Fly interestingly.